Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to talk about a legend of how a god's rage shaped our world. Long before science gave us answers to the mysteries of the sky and earth, ancient people looked at the world around them and wove stories to explain it. One of the most dramatic of these tales comes from early Chinese mythology, the story of Gonggong, the water god, and his furious collision with Mount Buzhou, an act so powerful, it tilted the heavens and reshaped the earth. This is the legend of how our world came to be, just as it is. Our story begins in the legendary age of the 5 emperors, a golden era said to have dawned over 4,000 years ago, long before China had written history. These weren't ordinary rulers, but semi-divine sage kings who laid the very foundations of Chinese civilization. Their names echo through ancient texts. Huangdi, the Yellow Emperor, inventor of carts, medicine, and the calendar. Zhuanxu, his brilliant grandson, who brought cosmic order to heaven and earth. Emperor Ku, known for his wisdom and poetic soul. Emperor Yao, the paragon of humility and justice. And Emperor Shun, the humble farmer who rose to rule through virtue alone. Among them, Zhuanxu stands out as a master organizer of the universe. He's credited with separating the realms of gods and humans, aligning the seasons with the stars, and establishing rituals that harmonized society with the rhythms of nature. He traveled tirelessly across the land from the wind-swept plains of Hebei in the north to the misty peaks beyond the Nanling Mountains in the south, from the arid frontiers of Gansu in the west to the distant islands shimmering in the eastern sea. Wherever he went, legend says, people rejoiced. Animals wagged their tails in greeting, and even the trees bent gently, as if bowing to his presence. But Zhuanxu wasn't without flaws. Legends say he enforced strict rules that reflected a shifting society, one where men were rising in power and women's status was declining. One such rule: if a woman met a man on the road and didn't step aside, she'd be dragged to the crossroads and publicly punished. Harsh? Yes. But this detail tells us something important. By Zhuanxu's time, China had likely moved from a matriarchal past into a patriarchal era. Now, Zhuanxu wasn't the only powerful figure of his age. There was another, a rival named Gonggong. Gonggong, it's said, was a descendant of the great flame emperor Yan Di. Strong, intelligent, and deeply devoted to the common good, he cared passionately about farming the lifeblood of ancient society. Alongside his son, who too later worshipped as the earth god or god of the soil, Gonggong surveyed all 9 provinces of ancient China: Ji, Yan, Qing, Shu, Yang, Jing, Yu, Liang, and Yong. They noticed a problem. Some lands were too high for irrigation, others too low, prone to flooding. Neither was ideal for growing crops, so Gonggong proposed a bold plan: flatten the highlands, fill the lowlands. By moving earth from mountains to valleys, he believed they could create vast new fields, enough to feed countless families and secure prosperity for generations. But Zhuanxu refused. Why? Because to him, this wasn't just about farming. It was about authority. As the supreme leader, Zhuanxu believed only he should decide the fate of the land. And so, he claimed, the heavens themselves forbade such tampering. Using fear and superstition, he warned the people, if Gonggong reshapes the earth, the gods will be angered. and disaster will follow. Many believed him. In an age when spirits and omens ruled daily life, few dared defy divine will. But Gonggong, he wouldn't back down. He knew his plan was right. And if the people wouldn't stand with him, he would act alone. In a final, desperate act of defiance, Gonggong charged toward Mount Buzhou, a colossal, jagged peak said to pierce the sky itself, one of the great pillars holding up the heavens. And then he rammed his head into the mountain. The impact was cataclysmic. Mount Buzhou shattered. Its peak collapsed. The very pillar of heaven snapped like a dry branch, and with it the world changed forever. The sky, no longer held upright, tilted northwest. The earth, unmoored, sank in the southeast. That's why the ancients said the sun, moon, and stars rise in the east and set in the west. They follow the slant of the broken sky. And that's why all of China's great rivers, like the Yangtze and the Yellow River, flow eastward into the sea, because the land itself slopes downward to the southeast. Though Gonggong was left dazed, bleeding, perhaps even dying from the blow, his sacrifice wasn't in vain. In northern China, the collapse of Mount Buzhou created vast, fertile plains, perfect for agriculture. His vision, realized through destruction, brought life. And though he lost his battle with Zhuanxu, history remembers Gonggong not as a rebel, but as a hero, a symbol of courage, conviction, and selfless devotion to the people. Of course, we now know the real reasons for the sun's path and river flows thanks to astronomy and geology. But over 2,000 years ago, this myth offered something equally valuable: meaning. It showed how ancient Chinese thinkers tried to understand their world, not just through observation, but through story, symbol, and spirit. And in Gonggong, they gave us a timeless truth. Sometimes, the greatest changes begin with a single act of defiant hope. So the next time you watch the sun sink below the western horizon, remember the water god who once tilted the sky with nothing but his will and his head. If you'd like to explore more stories like this, tales that shaped China's art, philosophy, and soul, please subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep looking back to understand the world ahead.